Okay, rolling.
Hello, welcome to The Jungle. I'm your host, Amberly Lobo. Our guest on today's show is the co-founder of Kommunity Brew. In 2014, Kommunity Brew was just two guys making kombucha in their kitchen in Fremantle. Fast forward to now, and the brand has expanded to 36 products and is stocked in over 80 Coles stores in Western Australia and 1,200 stores Australia-wide. In this conversation, we find out how it all happened, plus we cover the ups and downs of business, dumpster diving, surviving the startup phase, mental health strategies, and so much more. Welcome to The Jungle, the Kombucha King, Mason Baigios.
Welcome to The Jungle with Amberly Lobo.
Mason Baigios, welcome to The Jungle.
Thank you for having me, Amber.
I am honestly so excited. So as I said in the intro, you have co-founded this cold beverage empire. But as background, we sort of met all the way back in 2014 when it was like just starting out. So Mason worked at this little organic health food cafe called Manor, and I worked at a cafe up the road called The Little Concept, and we'd sort of like crossover in each other's lunch break. And I remember all the way back then you telling me about this kombucha thing that you and Jared were starting, and if we fast forward to now, it is like blown up. You're in like 1,200 stores across Australia doing huge things, 35 or 6 different products. I mean,
Yeah, so a lot bigger than when we were just at home. Yeah,
it must be pretty surreal.
Yeah, it is. It's really like surreal to friends and family too, because you know, back in the day it was just like bootleg bottles of something called kombucha, and everyone tells you these ideas you shouldn't necessarily follow, too risky, too strange, too random or whatever. And then like now, when you see stuff on like Coles and Woolies shelves, and like your son like goes to Coles to pick it up type thing, like that's like a bit mind blowing because that seems like big business and really far from where we started.
Like honestly, whenever I see it, it's actually stocked at like my local cafe. I'm always just like, Mason.
Yeah.
No, so congratulations.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for taking the time today. But what I thought would be cool is if we wind back the clock a bit and go back to school days and start at the beginning. What were you like at school? I know you went to Christchurch, so you were a suit and tie guy.
Yeah, suit and tie from grade 1.
Oh, wow.
So like, yeah.
I can't see that for you.
Tie in grade 1. And so, you know, same sort of uniform, like leather shoes, had to have shine shoes. You know, you'd get to school, there'd be like, you know, uniform monitor, you know, get a green slip or a white slip if you didn't follow dress code. So like really strict, but very encouraging environment. In high school, I was a complete renegade.
You?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can kind of see this.
You know, so I would come to school with like Band-Aids over piercings, and like I had my ears stretched like at a very strict boys' school. So I pushed every envelope I could. And like, so I had to have like a, you know, button-up shirt with a tie, and like there'd just be like piercings.
Oh, really?
Everywhere. So like sport and PE was always very awkward.
Were you a good student?
I was a likable student.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't. Like I would just yammer on and like mess around, and yeah, they were very much so like, oof, this kid's been here for like 12 years. We've got to like get him through. Yeah. Like we haven't been able to like rein him in.
Oh, so were you like kind of getting detention like a lot of the time? Was that your vibe?
So I don't remember many lunch breaks in primary school without detention. So I'm very familiar with the principal's wall where we had to sit and eat our lunch.
Is that what it was? Was it that you had to sit on the floor outside the principal's office?
On the floor, on the brick paving, outside his office in the shade, and you weren't allowed to take your back off the wall. So like you would be stuck on this wall the whole time. And then when the bell goes, you go back to class.
I wonder if that is still what detention is today.
Well, I noticed it got better in grade 11 and 12 because they'd be like, send me to the library, and I could go stack the shelves or like just help the librarians or go pick up rubbish. So I ended up in some respect becoming a teacher's pet to all of the teachers that had to look after me during lunch when I was on detention. But it was for like benign stuff. Like I wasn't like getting into fights. I was just dress code, talking, probably having a bit too much of a loud mouth. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what you wanted to do back then? Like, was starting a big beverage empire on your vision board?
Working was, no. Beverages, no. But just generally, like, I think I was understimulated by study and I really just wanted to work. So I come from a family of business owners. So like uncles, aunties, grandparents, everyone's a business owner. There's like maybe 2 people that have gone into academia or become in services or whatever. So for me, I was just like frustrated that I couldn't just go and work. And my parents had a rule of like, you're not allowed to work while you're at school. Oh. So I just signed up for like every internship, every work. So I just did work studies and work placements all through high school. And I loved that. But I just, I didn't have a career in mind, but I just knew I wanted to work.
Get out and work.
Yeah.
Well, after school, you threw yourself into work, made up for lost time. You got 2 jobs, pretty weird combo. You were a hairdresser by day and working a bar at night. What was that like?
Yeah, it was really, really weird. Like in the grade 12, like final dinner, like all the students got up and like said what they were going to go and do. Were they going to go study law or accounting? And most people from Christchurch become lawyers or bankers. So it was like, there was a very clear pathway for most students. And I got up and I was like, I'm going to go do an apprenticeship in hairdressing. And everyone's just like,
dead silence.
What? And I had like a friend's mum be like, I can't believe, like that's so disappointing, Mason, like you're going to be a hairdresser. And to me, I was like, I don't really care what I do. Like I actually had, my last work placement was with a hairdresser and they were actually like a high-end competition salon and they would travel the country and do these big competitions. And they were all really eclectic, alternative people, piercings, tats, like they were really cool.
Oh,
and
so
I
that was
like,
the attraction to
this
it.
is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And they had all said something like, it's very rare to get men in this industry. So like, you'll find it really easy to get work and you'll find it easy to get mentors. And that was all really attractive. And then because of the work placements, they also offered me work on the weekends. And that was really it, is I just wanted a job.
Yeah.
And so then I had a job straight away from I left high school and I got 2 full-time jobs basically straight away. And I did my apprenticeship during the day and I was working at bars at night.
How did you not just burn out with those hours?
I was like 17, so I had just heaps of energy.
Yeah.
So like I was always like really sporty in school as well. So I was a pretty fit young guy, and I had the energy to burn, and I loved it. And that's like probably a hack with any career or any work is if you love it, you've got the energy for it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that energy for study.
No,
sport, so.
I was gonna say, what was the money any kind of attraction to it, or was it just taking up your time?
No, being a hairdresser, you get paid $8 an hour.
Oh, okay.
So like I'm blown away like with where apprenticeships and wages are at now, because I remember like my first pay slip was I think it was $6 an hour, and I was like I did 40 hours, and I was excited for like what that gave me at the end of the week, and it was nothing. Like it was like. Certainly wouldn't have paid for any rent or anything like that. But that's also why I did the night job. And the bars, I was getting like loading and I was working till about 4 a.m. because I was doing like sport bars. So ones that had like, Soccer World Cup and like American sports. So they go later. Yeah. So I was doing those for really income. Yeah. And then the apprenticeship was for like education or career.
So am I also right in saying that the Mason back then was a bit more of a party boy? Like,
so especially the salon, like because these were like pretty high achieving people, but they would work really hard and play really hard. Yeah. So like we had like a Christmas trip, like because we made our Christmas bonus, like we smashed our like sales targets and stuff for the business. And so the boss took us to Bali for a week for just like a week-long bender.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like it had perks. But like I was still only 18 and 19. So like I just went really hard. It also meant I was socializing with people who were much older. So like I was the youngest in the team. Everyone else was like 22, 26, 30, up to 45. So I was also just always hanging out with older people. And like once a year we would go over to Sydney where there's this big like styling expo. Oh yeah. And that would also be like a week-long bender because you'd work during the day, but at night there would just be like after parties and stuff. So yeah.
It's really wild. I mean, because it is the complete opposite of what you are now. Yeah. Obviously, you're like this wellness, nutrition guy who's got this healthy beverages empire. What was sort of the catalyst that got you thinking about nutrition?
So I probably I did in a way get some sense of burnout, right? In that after 3-4 years of doing that double full time, and because the other job was bartending. So like you drink after work and we were going till sunrise. So after doing that together for so long, I ended up getting to my early 20s and going, I think I need to change. Like, I've worked really hard. I was losing interest in hairdressing, and I watched a documentary, like just by happenstance. I was like home on a Thursday night and I was just watching TV, and this doco called Food Matters came up. And for the first time ever, I thought about nutrition. And it was just like random chance. And it blew my mind. Like, they were talking about the effect of McDonald's on you, and it was the talk like fast food, and then the contrary to that, like the benefit of healthy food and healthy living.
And you were like, oh my goodness.
Click, because everything in the doco was the complete opposite
of your
to
life.
like drinking Sambuca at 5 a.m. as like just an end of work drinks.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense Tuesday just to be drinking Sambuca at 4 a.m.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Or equally, like hairdressers at that point, there was no vaping, a lot of smoking though. So lots of smoking and drinking there
You
too.
were doing it really hard.
So I was like, it was very contrarian, and it just clicked that maybe I should make this change.
Yeah, well, so off the back of the documentary, you did a full life overhaul. You enrolled into uni to study nutrition.
Yeah.
And then this is when you also got the job working at Manor. And it was at Manor that you met someone who was pretty special. He would go on to become your best mate, your housemate, your workmate, and then your eventual business partner. Tell us about Jared.
Yeah, so Jared and I were both going through transformation at the same time. So he was working in the mines, and we started at Manor Whole Foods like within a week of each other. Yeah. So he just finished doing, he was a shot fire in the mine, so working with explosives underground, like intense mining job, and from a mining family. Yeah. And so like he was like, I need to get away from the risk, the danger, the pollution. I need to do a full 180 and just go the other direction. And so he started studying naturopathic medicine, which is like, he also wasn't like, he graduated high school, but he never went to uni. So he was like, I'm going to go study natural medicine. Huge pivot. And then I was like, I'm going to try to get into uni, and successfully got into a college for nutrition. So kind of similar transformations. Yeah. And then we met at Manor, and I refer to it as like we fell in love over a crate of lettuce, because we were the grocery boys. Like, we were the ones in charge of all the fresh produce. And like I was in the call room at like 7 a.m. and then he came in, and then our supervisor was like, this is Jared, he's going to be your new colleague. And I'm like, hey buddy. And there was like a festive lettuce in between us. And I was like, can you help me with this crate? Cool, let's go. And then we got to know like, wow, our journeys are different from the origin, but our pivot was really similar.
Okay. And so were you guys sort of early on having conversations about, hey, why don't we start a business? Was that like a thing early on?
No, we so wanted Manor, our time at Manor, to be a success, because it was such a big change for us both. Like, in our own way, we were both making really good money. Like, I was a manager at both of my previous jobs, and he was earning great money on the mines. So it's like we took a big financial and career risk as well to move on and completely change our industries and kind of start at zero. So we wanted Manor to be a success, and we loved the job. So it was our first real passion job. So we worked for a couple of years together, and we just had such a good time with all the people there. The owner, Myra, was really nurturing to both of us, put us into supervisor and management roles after a while. We were glued at the hip. Before long, like, I moved in with Jared. Yeah. We became housemates, close colleagues, best friend. Like, we started to stack the relationship a lot. And I think it's because we both knew the transformation we were making was going to be like a lifetime.
Yeah, that's so wild. I didn't know that was also Jared's background. So similar.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, in 2013, you went on a holiday to Hawaii, and this is where you sort of had your mind blown for the second time in this little kombucha experience. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so 2013, a long time ago. So I had taken a trip. So part of like ecotourism, I went to Hawaii to go stay on like a biodynamic commune.
Of course you did.
Yeah. So a commune for a month. So it was like 300 people live on this site, and they all contribute to like the farming and the food prep and everything. So it's like a lot of woofers. Yeah. If you know the term woofers, like people who travel for work.
Oh, okay.
So like they can live there for free.
Yeah.
But they have to work.
Okay. Yeah.
So or you can just go there as a tourist, like I did. So I went there, I stayed in a bungalow and just like lived a very yogic hippie lifestyle for a month. And they didn't have a bar. They had a kombucha bar. So like every night they would do like dance events and parties and entertainment, but there was no alcohol. And it was a huge resort and like 300 people.
Yeah.
So all these people are not drinking. But they had like all of these tonics and stuff. And I tried kombucha for the first time there. It was like a lychee mango kombucha, and it just blew my mind. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. It got poured off a tap. It looked like a beer. They gave it to me in a pint. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then I drank it and I was like, this is wild. And like the people there would like, they were covered in body paint. They were dancing and it was all ecstatic and like exciting. So it was just a chance for me to see a completely different way of socializing. And it was just so tied to what I was trying to do for myself. I was like, I'm still social and I still want to have fun. But this is the sort of fun I want to have.
And just to give people context, I mean, now obviously kombucha is like this word that is thrown around and everyone knows it's almost like overused. But this was like 2013. It wasn't really like much of a thing back then.
No, 2013. I remember things in albums.
Yeah.
And like there was a single, right? It was Macklemore's Thrift Shop.
Oh, I love that
So
song.
like, that was the song of 2013. Yeah. And it was like, everyone would know that jingle. Yeah. It was way before any non-alcoholic beers. Like drinking was kind of at a zenith. I think Jägermeister was really big at that time. Like it was, sobriety was not cool.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
as opposed to now.
Yeah. So I think Jaeger bombs were really big at that time.
Oh, gosh.
So and that's what I was doing in my previous job. It was like heaps of shots. And so drinking was still at a peak.
Okay, so mind blown by the kombucha. You come home, you get Jared, you sit down with Jared and you tell him about this kombucha experience that you had. Jared's all in, he's loving it. Were you guys thinking straight away, let's start making kombucha, or were you like, let's make what was your plan?
So this is where our worlds collide quite a bit, because I had been asking Jared to sit down with me and just talk about a business plan for months. Like I just couldn't. I was at a really happy place at Manor, but I was like, I need kind of more than this now. I need more stimulation. I need to do another project. It was very weird for me just to have one job. So I was like, I was already thinking about what else I could do. He eventually said, yes, I'll entertain you. Like, let's go talk about your idea. So we went to the little concept, your cafe. And which I love, because a part of our story is like our little idea was at the little concept. We sat on one of their like wire wheel tables and we just chatted. I was like, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. I got into this health movement because I was concerned about my drinking and my smoking, and like, I used to get people smashed for a living. And I think that's a bit like tapped, to be honest. I think that's not sustainable. Like people can't just continue this way. And studying nutrition, I was like, I don't think you and I should have a clinic. I'm not thinking we should go into clinic to each other, but I do think we should try and make something that helps people's lifestyles. So what about this? Let's do a non-alcoholic bar. Like we'll go get all non-alcoholic drinks. We'll have a bar. It can be a social space. And he was like, I like it. Sounds expensive. And I'm like, it does. Like we're going to have to build a bar, get a lease. And we started to just nitpick the idea. But that was like the partnership really kicking off. He's like, he was invested. He wanted to find a way to make it work. And after a few meetings, just chats, we ended up going, well, let's make the drink that sits in that environment. We'll use other people's bars. Yeah. We'll just make the thing that they drink there. And so that to us seemed like achievable. It was like
a cheaper option.
Yeah, a cheaper option. Like, we weren't like well off financially. So like it's something we could do. And also like we thought we can make something and test it out on a few people. Yeah. And then if they just say it's gross or they don't like it,
You've not invested $200K into it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We could do it for like $6 basically.
Okay. And so,
So-
when you've had this initial idea to start making kombucha, were you thinking as big as, and then eventually we'll get it into all the supermarkets across Australia? No, it wasn't that.
I mean, like I was vision boarding at this time.
Yeah.
So like just in my personal life with the whole transformation, like I started to have a far more structured way to what I wanted to achieve and do in my life. Kind of like a bucket list, but then it became, like a manifestation board.
Oh, yeah, I love
So it started simple,
Yeah.
like this is just what I want to do before I die, towards this is what I want to see happen in my life, and included all sorts of things. And no, with the business, I didn't see us going to like major supermarkets.
Yeah.
But I did see us like having like a big plant and like something
Yeah.
that was like off the grid, and everything was made out of rainwater, and like really, there was definitely a vision to it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I didn't see where it ended up.
Stop the podcast. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor of the show and friend of the show, American Apparel. American Apparel are back. Their clothes are ethically sourced, super comfortable and sustainable. So what are you waiting for? Visit americanapparel.com.au. On with the show. Well, in 2014, you registered the business. Kommunity Brew was born.
Yep.
And you guys went into production. Now, when I say production, I have had the privilege to come down to the site in Lathlane, and I've seen all like the space age technology and the machines and the big freezer rooms and all the crates and everything. It's amazing. But back in 2014, it was a very different vibe. Like,
Yep.
what was production for you guys?
Yeah,
starting
so
out?
a good book that we read, and I'm sure heaps of entrepreneurs have, is the Lean Startup, and it just helps like really taper your ideas down. So Jared and I, we were living together, so we're housemates. So we like turned the kitchen into our office.
Okay.
Like so you couldn't cook a meal without also seeing all the paperwork. He had a big shed out the back that we turned half into a warehouse and half into a little brew room. We did all the carpentry with ourselves and friends and family, did all the plastering, plumbing, electrical. Sort of you get mates to come in and sign things off to make sure we did it right. But, we hand built all of this stuff and then just tested it really light and easy. So I think at the start I said, let's put in like $15,000 for everything. Like this needs to be the space we make it in, our first load of bottles, our tea, and yada, yada, yada. But this was also around the same time where we were just taking these bottles and just going to an IGA or going to someone's house, like a solar panel salesperson, and just seeing if they would buy it.
Yeah.
So like we had a really basic grassroots sales process.
Strategy. Yeah.
So
winding it back a little bit, how did you were you just YouTubing how to make it? Like, is that did you just teach yourself how to make it?
Yeah, so like our colleagues at Manor, because we were still working there for a period, some of them had made it. So we just like asked them, like, how do you make it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, sweet. And then there were some other people at farmers markets. We'd talk to them. We actually spoke with Curtin University at some point. Like we were just kind of like, feel free to make a phone call, look online, read blogs, just wherever the information was. And what we found was like no one really had the recipe or the way that we do now, but it's a real collection of all the things we've learned.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool as well is that because you were both studying nutrition, working at Manor, you were sort of already getting all this customer feedback on products that were good and bad. Like customers always like complain or like give feedback. So you were able to sort of use that to inform your product design a little bit. Like, what sort of feedback did you integrate into it?
Well, that probably also fed into why when making a non-alcoholic drink, it was kombucha as well. Like not just like apple juice, because we were at Manor, we were seeing like trends, right? Because we would at a health food store, all your customers are coming in to, get something for their keto diet or their gluten-free diet or a family member. So you get to see like all the trends in real time in retail. And so we just sort of watched what was moving, and we saw a lot of people grabbing kombucha because they were non-drinkers. And there was one guy in particular I remember who was an alcoholic that fully like recovered, and his drink of choice was kombucha. I didn't have the heart to tell him that there was like 0.5% alcohol in there, but he was okay. Like he didn't fall off the wagon, so it was all good. But, you know, watching that, I was like, there's a bit of a trend here that we could sort of get into. So yeah, there was a really good listening process to being in retail. And then we went to farmers markets, and that was like the listening experiment on steroids, because you just go up, you put up your stand, everything from your brand to your language that you use to the taste of your product, it's all just great feedback. And luckily, like Jared and I have, I think, a healthy ego in that we don't take things personally. We take it professionally.
Oh, so critical.
Yeah. So like when people say like, you know, when you're giving kombucha to people, a lot of them are going to say, oh, yuck. Like they're going to have really visceral responses. And we found, okay, it's too sour. It's too sweet. It's, you know, it's too pungent, whatever. Like, and we just took all that feedback for years and fed that into improvement.
So you're tinkering away in the kitchen, and so your initial selling strategy was literally going up to people and just like kind of lemonade stand vibe.
Yeah, kind of lemonade stand. So when I was at Manor, I got to know all the locals because we were their hub. So I would just park up the car and have, say, 24 bottles in the back and just go door knocking and just be like, hey, look, you recognise me? So they would answer the door and they'd go, oh, you're the bloke from Manor, or you're Mason. Like they'd know who I was. And I'd just say, look, I'm starting this business. I'm really just looking for feedback. Would you be interested in purchasing this kombucha for $5? And just give me the feedback. So it was two things. Like one, will people even pay for it? Because if they won't pay for it now, will they pay for it ever? Like, so, and then what is the feedback? And we had things like exploding bottles and all sorts of problems. So
were these bottles branded at the time, or just like clean bottles?
At first they weren't. Like they were just like amber bottles, like hand capped, very basic. And then we did some branding
later on.
Yeah, and like we had some wild ideas. Like Jared and I were like, we're going to do a handwritten note on every label. We're going to like collect
didn't
gum
you do that,
leaves.
Mason?
I know, we did, like for a limited number of people. And then we were like, this doesn't work. Like,
wait, what were your handwritten notes?
Oh, well, yeah. Also, we used to do like a little tag on there, and we used to thank the person. So a lot of what we did was like intention. There was an intention element that we would add to it. So all of the kombucha tanks would have an emotion written on there, like hope or generosity. So like, we would also apply that then to the bottles. Like, could we do could we do something on the bottle on there, or when we give people the product, can we make sure we just at least holding something in our heart? Like it was very like intentional. Gosh, can
you please bring that back?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say intention's not there now, but it's we were taking a very spiritual approach.
You're turning over like 1 million units a year now. You can't be holding them
it's
in like
certainly, but you know
sunlight.
what? Like I jump on that line fairly regularly, and I think like when I do it, it all kind of comes back as
That's
well.
So
I'm like, you know, I don't like a single label to be like slightly off, and it's not because it needs to be straight for aesthetics. It's because it's like I need it. It all has to be cared for.
Yeah, you know, I've got to tell you as well, I have this like vivid memory of walking into Manor to pick up my tempeh, and every time I go in, you'd be like telling me about kombucha. Okay. I'd be like, Mason,
I was very passionate.
It was like so passionate. Yeah. I was like, you were hustling. You were like, so when did you first get it into a store? Was it Manor? Was it like that? Your first
so, you know, blessings to Myra, the owner of Manor, because she nurtured Jared and I to through that business, and then when they were our first stockist as well. So
still are, and you're on the top shelf. Yeah, I went in there on the weekend. And I was
they used to have I don't know if they still have it. They used to have a little note there saying like this kombucha was actually founded by 2 of our staff members. So so that's a pretty cool thing to have. You know, right in front of the bottles. I've got a photo, and I treat it as my like my day one in a way, like August 2014, and it's like me with the previous manager Rick and Jared, and we're all pointing to the shelf, and it's like our products being on there for the first time. So they were our first stockist, and then from there it was just going and walking in through the front door to like the boat shed and just being like, Hi.
Context for everyone, like Boat Shed is like this like bougie.
Yeah, so
It's like a bougie fruit and veg market.
take the most fancy suburb and give it the most fancy grocery store.
And they just take all your money.
And you won't leave disappointed other than, your account balance.
Yeah, you'll have nothing.
But, they're really prestigious. And so we just walked in and just were humans. And we were just like, hi, I'm Mason. This is my kombucha company. Do you have 10 minutes to talk about it?
Oh, wow. And that was your little strategy.
Let's talk about it. And then I would really love to bring it to you for sale. And here's what I know about it.
Yeah.
No, because I'm not have a background in marketing.
That's what I was going to know. So you just organically sort of did that and then we'd go to the next cafe and then the next cafe and the next cafe.
So a lot of it would have been just based on they thought I was trustworthy or they liked my approach or,
That's so
not too salesy, probably.
Yeah. No, well, honestly, so cool. Such a great origin story. Things started to obviously expand. You were starting to take over the Perth cafe scene. So it was time to expand production. And I love this part of the story because instead of going out on site somewhere, you guys just expanded your kombucha production into every other room of the house that you were living in.
Yes. So every spare room was now storage. Yeah, totally. It was, my desk was butted against the kitchen table. The kitchen bench. And it was just every part of the house. We were going out every weekend to find fridges from secondhand, upcycling people, people who'd get fridges from Verge Collection and clean them up. Yeah. And we were buying these fridges for $100 just so that we could store more product.
Oh wait, so you just had
ingredients.
A sea of random fridges.
Yeah, I think we had 6 or 7 fridges that were all just random and falling apart, but that was our cool room because we didn't have a cool room. And all of our housemates had to get on board because we had housemates. So it's we weren't the only ones in the house. So it was Jared's home. So he was the homeowner. I was renting off him and then we had 2 other housemates. And yeah, everyone has had to be okay with the house being basically a place of business. But it was very obvious we needed to move on when we had a truck come down to deliver 8 pallets of bottles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A B double, a big truck. And we were on a cul-de-sac and he basically just drove on everybody's council land to do a U-E in this cul-de-sac to reverse and drop off 8 pallets of bottles to our little shed out the back. And we would come out of the shed in a lab coat and a hairnet, ready to receive the bottles because we took cleanliness really seriously, and it would have looked like a lab. It would have looked really sus, because especially at that time our kombucha was pharmacy bottles too.
You were wearing lab coats at home when you were
Yeah. We took it really seriously.
So seriously. And I remember you telling me Jared was sort of just continually building sheds on an as needed basis almost.
Yeah. We definitely pushed the limits of the council.
Yeah.
We were
and your neighbours.
Yeah. Luckily, yeah. I mean, our neighbours were all pretty sus. Because we were in a pretty poor neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So our neighbours were a bit sus. So I think they didn't care what we were doing so long as we didn't care what they were doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially in 2014, no one knew what that was.
Yeah. No, well, I want to stay on that early build phase for a second because it's often super hard. And you guys were doing it tough. Like you said, you all of a sudden, I guess if we parachute into your life, you were living with Jared. Your house had sort of become this gigantic kombucha plant. What was it like on a day-to-day basis for you?
Yeah, so, I did go into obsessive overdrive in some degree. Because first it was grounded in passion, but also I had this work ethic of I could work 14-hour days every day for years and not have a problem with it, so long as I enjoyed what I was doing. So, and when you're at home, that's on a whole nother level. So not only were we working all day and all night, but I had no real reason to knock off.
Yeah.
So, and Jared luckily really mirrors that too. So he has a really strong work ethic, which is why it's such a good partnership. And so, yeah, we basically would work all around the clock, but we also left our jobs. So there was a period there.
Manor.
Yeah. So we had a really good first 6 months and we were this business can stand on its legs. like we should leave our jobs. But the thing is it could stand on its own legs, but it couldn't really pay us a living wage. So like it would look after the house, so we didn't have to pay rent. Electricity was taken care of. We weren't socializing because we were working so hard.
Yeah.
So like we didn't really have a social life to fund. But like it got tough, like food wise. Like, you know, I remember being on the absolute bones of our ass saying to Jared, like, the business still needs more. Like it needs its resource. Like we shouldn't be taking money out of it. Like we need to do everything we can. What do we do about food?
Oh, that was after.
We were like, what? And like I realized like, oh, I'd have such trouble giving my son this story, you know, in a way. Like I don't want him to ever have to hustle like that. But
like what were you eating?
Well, we knew a lot of food businesses around town.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you can go to bakeries and stuff like that and they have toss-aways and they have food that they're getting rid of at the end of the day. You know, there was a period of dumpster diving.
Oh,
like,
no,
you know,
full
there was like
on.
I'm not sure if you ever heard of the freegan movement, but
No,
there's
you
like
haven't.
a movement of people who will dumpster dive for things like bread and cheese and stuff.
Whoa.
So like there was a moment there where we probably didn't feel like we could take anything from, and we needed just to keep giving. And it was really hard, but it's a long time ago now.
Dumpster dive. Like how long was this period? Like did it go for a while?
Yeah, I'd say like we're on subsistence living for 12 months.
12 months. You know, like I briefly had that experience in COVID. I was in Melbourne, and when COVID first hit, everyone raided the supermarkets and I didn't take it seriously, and I was living in a city, and by the time I got there was nothing left. So I was eating chickpeas with green beans and mayonnaise and sriracha sauce. And it was,
Mate.
but no. But
Right. No, I feel you. Like I've done the same.
Yeah.
I've had lentils with Italian herbs.
oh, like it's sprinkled in there?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
Because we were all like, yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, okay, you know that.
I do know.
Well, like, what I was going to say though, at least mine was like, it went for 3 weeks and then people chilled out and then I could buy food. But 12 months eating lentils with what? Would you sprinkle dried herbs on them?
Yeah, it got, well, yeah.
Actually?
Yeah. So like literally those Italian herb packs you just get from a supermarket.
That's
and like,
wild.
like that, we were really poor.
Yeah.
The house was taken care of. So we weren't homeless.
And the kombucha was amazing.
But it got to the point where we were like, we didn't think about any form of Centrelink or there's early business programs.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, people told us about them, but like
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I just didn't spend my time on it. And there's something about my brain which is like I'm really good at delayed gratification.
That's what I was going to say.
So to me, I was just like, it's gonna get better. Like I was looking at the financials and the balance sheet and stuff like, it's all gonna get better, but it just needs more. Because also, we were doing everything so physically, hand labeling, hand bottling, hand pumping, like
Holding
everything.
the bottles up to the sun and
Mate.
giving them an intention.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was such a labor of love. It all felt really good.
Yeah.
But we also knew like over time we were becoming a manufacturer, right? Like we were like, we need like automation. Like we need machinery to do
Otherwise
this.
you're
Like,
never going to be able to
yeah,
get
and we
it.
didn't have any money, and none of the banks were interested in startups.
Yeah.
It's always hard to get banks to take businesses seriously, especially startups, especially something in kombucha, especially with two people who don't have like MBAs. So there was no funding, there was no finance, there was really good sales. Like the product was doing really well in store, but it just made us busier because the better it did, the more we had to make.
Keep up with it.
And so keeping up, we were like, we have to get like machinery to help us out. So for us, we were like, we'll eat lentils.
To save the
Just
money.
to save,
To get
to
the
get the
machinery.
equipment. Like we know, like, you know, it's pretty hard to build a brewery for less than $1 million. And we started with 15. So it's like, we had a long way to go.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it now. Like you couldn't, $1 million won't get you a decent production facility now. Really. Like I think I couldn't replicate what we have.
Did you have moments where you were like, what the hell are we doing? Like, yeah, okay.
Mostly because like, it's weird to have something that's so successful during the day, that had such a strong fan base and such good relationship with retailers, but was so hard to make.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was just like, it's so hard. Like, you know, we were getting RSI in our hands and our wrists and our arms, like, you know, twinges in the neck and stuff because of like all the manual labeling. We were delivering everything by hand. So we're up at 5 a.m. to load a truck, to take it out, to deliver it, to come back, to label, to bottle, to fill, to brew. It was constant.
And then you would have had people coming up to you being like, this is amazing. And you'd be like, I'm eating lentils. And
Yeah, it was a real, that
would have been
absolutely,
so hard.
Well, that's right, especially because at the beginning, so many people were like, you're nuts for trying to do this thing. No one knows what kombucha is. Like, my dad was like, what are you doing? This is absolutely crazy. Someone in business who I actually like really revered in terms of the way that he does business. He was like, this is a nuts business. You're never going to compete with the big breweries. And I was just naive to that. Yeah. But there was definitely moments where I was like, I don't know how to stop because people love it so much.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to do, and they didn't really know how hard it was. It's not something you tell your customers.
No.
So for me, I was just like, it's a part of it's the hustle now.
Yeah.
This is the hustle part. This is the
and you had to believe and trust that it would get easier.
Yeah, totally. It did help talking to other business owners. It really helped talking to my grandfather. So my grandfather's a migrant from Macedonia, so he came over here when he was a young boy. So he was seeking asylum from civil war. So he started businesses in Australia, didn't speak English, learnt English by selling milk type thing, like in delis, and he has wicked grit and hustle. And so when I'd share my business journey with him, he'd be like, "It's going to be hard." Like he never sugarcoated it. He was like, "It's going to be so hard. You're going to be so stressed." He goes, "You just have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it still worth it?" And I would do that. I'd ask myself, and I'm like, I think it is. Yeah. Like, I don't know it is, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Pretty sure it's worth it?
I'm pretty sure it's worth it.
What was it about it, I guess, that made you go, I want to keep doing this?
It's really, I guess it comes down to the joy that I experience. Like, when people love what you do, like when you have lots of fans and customers and stuff like that, just say, oh, I love this, it's the best. Like every Google review, every like kind word at a farmer's market, that all really stuck. And like we used to get lots of sobriety stories too. Like at the farmer's market, I had people come up to me being like, I quit drinking and this is my drink. And I'm like, that's the mission, man. Yeah. Like that's the thing we're going for. And then also like staff too, like the team members we'd had over time, mostly really good outcomes, mostly really good stories, mostly people that are like have been uplifted by their experience. And that's also rewarding. So it's like, it's not just the customer, but it's also all the people you meet on the journey and how inspired or encouraged or uplifted they become. And so really, all of that stuff really fed back and that really spurred me on. And it still does, for sure.
For someone who's maybe listening right now and maybe they're in that early phase of starting up something and they might be doing their version of lentils with dried mixed herbs, or maybe they've had to move back in with their parents, or they're not making money from it, or they're juggling 2 different jobs. Like, do you have any advice for them on like navigating and surviving that early stage of business?
Yeah, like definitely you don't know when it will get easier, and you can't really necessarily hang out that it will, right? Like because you really don't know. Like we're in this, you know, we're coming up to our decade, right? So it could be a really long time. So I think it's really good just to know like this is going to be a slog for a long time. So you do need to have people around you that are supportive, and you do need to make sure that if you really have naysayers, people who just demoralize you, they do need to move on, and you need to have good boundaries. I think that's really important in your journey to make sure that you get rid of demoralizing people and activities and stuff. I think it's important to have mentors. Like it's really important to have people you can be transparent about your business, because the challenge that you have right now, like there's usually something really gritty that you're working on. And if you've got that really gritty thing, likelihood is someone else has already solved that problem. So like, it's not that you can get rid of the grit, but you can certainly ask the right questions and ask the right people who might be able to give you a timeline or a solution or something like that. Like, there's so much knowledge out there and people are so helpful. You do need to be able to reach out.
And I guess how important as well do you think it is to have that extreme delayed gratification muscle?
Well, I think if you go into business, you actually need to understand that it is a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there will be like plateaus or moments of joy, and they'll like and it's just really is wavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like you get up there and then it's up there. It's like, boom.
I just don't think it ever really finishes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe at an exit. But for real passion-led founders, that exit might be really hard to qualify. I struggle right now thinking that I would exit because I love what I do. Like, after this long duration of hard work, I still see myself doing it for 20 years.
Oh, that's wild.
So like if there's other founders like me who feel really passionate about what they're doing, then they really just need the right people around them who are not employees, who are not, their significant other, like who are really objective business mentors that they can have some transparent conversations with.
Well, so business is chugging along. As you said, it got to a point where you did have to move because the truck was backing onto everyone else's front driveways and grass. So you guys moved to Canning Vale. Was that your first site?
Yeah. So we've had two sites other than the home.
Yeah.
We first moved into Canning Vale, and it was really like we measured the heck out of this decision because we were like, okay, we're gonna have to get a lease. We're gonna have to get a lawyer. We're gonna have to do all these things. We have to fit it out, get the machinery. Like, we think it's going to make our lives a lot easier mechanically, but it was a massive investment. And we put that off as long as we possibly can because if there's anything in this story, it's like delayed gratification. It's taking things slow. We didn't think we'd hit $1 million straight away. We didn't overinvest. We took very little finance. Like, it was all very, very, very lean. So then the lease was like a big decision.
Yeah.
So luckily, like, as fortune had it, we found like a warehouse that had a food business in it. So it already had like the drains and the sinks and the setup, and it was like ready for a food business. So we're like, we just saved a bomb. And that's, I think, Jared's secret talent. He's like, he can just tune into the ether and just find these deals. So we found this deal. At the same time, another beverage company was deciding they were like, too hard, too tired, we're out. And they wanted to sell all their equipment. So we're like, we've got the premise, we've got the equipment.
We don't need our Gumtree fridges.
We don't need They came with us.
Oh, they actually came with us.
They saved us for years.
No, they didn't.
No.
They actually did.
There's also a part of us that are hoarders in some respects. So you never throw out a good piece of equipment. Because you can always go back to the Stone Age.
Never. That'll be like your quote from this episode.
Yeah.
Never throw out a good piece of equipment.
Never. Yeah, for sure. No, you should upsell everything. Like,
Okay.
Yeah. So like we still have our like original manual fully hand operated setup, because if the machines break, going back to square one.
Oh no, imagine that.
Hopefully the machines are only down for a couple of hours or a day, but we can keep rolling.
Yeah.
So we moved to our first place, got all set up, and then I got some really good advice from a family member who was in business, and they were in manufacturing, but completely different. It's like steel manufacturing. And he said to me, like, it takes 2 to 3 years when you relocate to find your feet.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I was expecting it to get easier in 6 months. And I was like, really good advice. Thank you. Really good advice.
Is that what it took?
Yeah, it took years for us to like, when you start throwing in all these new expenses and stuff like that, it takes you a while to work out how to expect those and manage them. It's one thing to agree to something on paper, but all agreements have to go through, you have to go through the ropes.
Well, after that, business started accelerating. You guys were, as I said, dominating the Perth cafe scene. And by the end of 2019, you found yourself in this really good place. And you were also negotiating this huge deal overseas. Yes, I'm bringing it up.
Yeah,
with Singapore. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we had our like best year ever.
Yeah.
I had inked a deal with a big exporter to Singapore. And for us, we were like, oh my God.
Watch out, world.
We are breaking the Perth bubble. Because it's really hard. Like, you realise how isolated Perth is.
It's isolated.
especially in business, you're like, we are like 3,000 kilometers
Yeah.
away from Sydney. I think it's actually more than that. I think it's like 3,600. So it's like really far away, countries away. So it's really hard to get products from here to there economically. And we worked out it's actually easy to go to Singapore. And we inked this huge deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I think our next year is in the bag, guys. Like, we can work on this. We can work on Singapore. We can work on Perth, really tight-knit markets. It's all going to be manageable.
The dumpster diving was worth it.
It was all worth it. It really felt like the year we were going to actually take home something.
Yeah.
We signed that deal in September 2019. And something started to come through the news cycle in January 2020.
I know.
And we heard about it from Singapore first.
Oh, no.
Because it was going
COVID
through.
was coming
COVID
that
was going
way.
through Asia.
Oh, no. So you would have been
And
like,
so
uh-oh.
we got a call from Singapore in January because I was like, oh, they're due for, some more orders.
Yeah.
Because we had this like calendar planned out. And then I was like, I'm getting worried because they were ordering a lot of product off us. It was half our revenue. And they said, oh, everyone's actually really sick over here and they're shutting all the ports down. So like we heard about COVID before it was even named.
Yeah.
And we were like, ooh, shutting ports down. Maybe this is normal.
Yeah.
Like we've never dealt with export ports before. Maybe it's normal to shut ports down every now and again. Come February, it was like, the whole country's gone to lockdown. The ports are shut indefinitely. We're wrapping up.
They're wrapping up their business.
They're wrapping up their business.
Oh,
so
no.
I wiped off about $500,000 off our expected, and like that was half of our business.
Oh, no.
So we were going to have our first $1 million year, and half of it just.
Cancel the marching band.
Yeah, I was like, all right, everybody, we are in panic mode. and what I was also doing at that same time is off the back of that Singapore deal, I was also going, our business has gotten larger.
Yeah.
We're just founders with limited knowledge. I'd invited mentors to come into the business and become advisors and investors, so like angel investors. And I'd been vetting all these different people for months. Like, are we going to go with the property guys, the financial guys, like the agriculture collective? Like, who's going to be the investor? And I was vetting all these different people. And the two people I went with, so glad I went with them, because in February, when I was absolutely terrified about what to tell these people who had just invested, they invested in January.
Oh, okay, wow.
They invested in January, and in February
You'd
we
be like,
had the
slight
news.
change to the books, guys.
And I was like, I don't know what to say, but this thing's happening in Asia and our Singapore business is completely terminated. Half of what you've purchased is gone. What do you want to do? And they were so pragmatic.
Yeah.
These two people, they were like, because what I didn't know is that they knew it was COVID and it was affecting they had businesses themselves and they were much bigger. And they just said, well, let's strategize.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, how are you so cool?
Yeah.
Like, you're so calm, so collected. And then I was like, well, that's what we do. And I think it was a rebirth of how we do business.
What was the big strategy change for you guys?
Well, it was like, rather than having an emotional or even spiritual response to the whole ordeal, like we did that in our own time.
Yeah.
But when it came to like when we were sitting down having a meeting, we were like, we need to look about strategy, resources. How are our people? How are our customers?
Yeah.
What has how has the game changed? And then let's make decisions off that.
Yeah.
So it was just really collaborative and cooperative, and before I think we were far more gut feeling, and we do our own measurements, we do our own analysis, but it was far more passion and emotionally driven as a startup business. And then at that point we were a strategic business.
Okay.
All the benefits of the passion,
Yeah.
because that's still in us.
Yeah.
That's our nature. But now we had this whole nother layer of strategy.
Yeah. And a big part of that strategy was we need to penetrate the big supermarkets.
Well, we did, yes. That became like a growth pillar. But we actually, number one, we had to work out what to do with our customers, right? Because as COVID was coming in, it was shutting down all these cafes that we worked with. So it wasn't, we didn't just lose Singapore.
You lost.
We also had all the cafes were shutting down because they couldn't trade. And all the retailers were going nuts for toilet paper. And so we were then getting news that like businesses were going to shut because they couldn't trade. So we had all of these invoices out to into customers that were probably never going to get paid. So I was like, we had to come up with a plan. And one of the first sort of measures was, one, let's talk to all of our staff and have a very honest conversation. The business is now in a completely new state. It's in a survival state. We need to make adjustments. And we want to make sure that everyone's impacted as little as possible. That was really confronting because I was like really ready to have to, unfortunately, let people go or pay them far less than what they were expecting.
Yeah.
So that was really awkward. And then really luckily for us, our sales manager, Sam, had already been working on grocery for like 6 months.
Oh, we
so
love
while
Sam.
I was on, we love Sam. So I was already on Singapore, and while all my work had just evaporated, and he was like building up these grocery stores.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think we can make this work because groceries won't shut down. So we can totally pivot the business towards this. And then we had this discussion around, well, what do we do with all the cafes? We decided, well, let's be supportive and not debt collectors. Because they're all freaking out. They're all they might lose their livelihood. They might, we think it's terrible for us. It's far more terrible for them because they can't trade at all. So we just changed our sales strategy to focus on grocery and then counsel the rest. Eventually this will pass. And we want to get to the end of this as the good people that actually helped rather than, the people who just tried to extract. So myriad of other things, but we ended up over 6 months redoing our branding, redoing our team culture, redoing our communication strategy. Like we just rebuilt everything with this new world. Wow. Because there's really a pre and post COVID world. And we just had to change all of our processes.
And how did you actually get into a supermarket? Is that just...
Yeah, so that was like, we were looking for business. Yeah. So I just called every secretary. Yeah. Like I would call the secretary to Ambo. I'd call the secretary to Woolworths. I would just call the front desk. 1300 number, 1800 number.
Stop.
Hi, I'm Mason. I would like to supply you. How do I do that? Like
actually,
just really basic.
Yeah. And
then I was on an e-newsletter for Coles. And it had like a generic email for the buying team. And I was just like, straight up, hey, buying team, my name's Mason. I would like to talk to you about products. And this lovely guy, Simon, like responded. And he was like, sure, I'll give you 15 minutes, mate. Yeah. And he just gave me 15 minutes. And he was like, yeah, cool, okay, right. Well, how about 5 stores? And I was like, ooh, 5 stores will do it.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
5 stores. And so then with the 5 stores, he was like, just tell me your 6 best products. We loaded up and then that was the start. Like, so it was just like, trolling emails, like just, trawling emails.
No, like you were trolling.
Not trolling emails, trawling the emails and then just calling the secretaries and just getting from the help desk to the buyer. That's all how it happened. Even with one of our biggest customers is Harris Farms in Sydney, right? Fantastic grocery store. Like just premium, beautiful, supports local. The head buyer there must have had 40 phone calls from me. Just like every 3 weeks, it's like, hey, I'm just checking. You said there was no space last time. Is there space now? Just letting you know, we're still here. We still think we would do so well. Because this is the thing, is like our product worked in retail. Yeah. Like that didn't change. COVID didn't affect that. When we were on the shelf, we sold. So like the product was fundamentally good.
You just needed the chance.
You just needed the chance. And there's so many people vying for the chance, but you really just have to make sure you're the squeaky wheel to get the grease.
And what was it like when they said, yes, okay, you can have a spot at Harrisdale in Sydney? Were you excited?
Well, that was all. You know what? It was like bittersweet because it was like that Singapore moment. I was like, we've got Harris Farms. We're sending them all this stock. And then I was like, it can disappear like that.
Yeah.
Like it can go.
Yeah.
So you have to like, for me, I was like, you've got to, this is like the opposite of pausing to celebrate. I was like immediately like, where do we go next? Yeah. Like, where do we go next? Yeah. And that COVID sort of impact still rings in my brain of no matter how comfortable you feel you are, be prepared because something completely out of your control can occur.
Oh, at any
and
time.
It will, and it has occurred.
It will, and it still does.
Yeah.
Well, since then, you guys have taken over the supermarkets.
Yeah.
You're in 1,200 supermarkets across Australia. How many in WA? Like 80?
So we got 80 Coles
Coles.
supermarkets and then 300 independent markets. And then on the East Coast, it's about 500 independent markets and then several hundred Coles and Woolworths.
And you've expanded the range from 2 products to 36. And you've gone from bottling like 50 little bottles and holding them up to the sunshine with intentions to 1 million units.
So we have 36 products now, not just kombucha, iced tea, cold brew coffee. Like we really went turbo. With that, with what we experienced with that change of business, we just went turbo on every front. Yeah. We're going to start new brands. We're going to start new products. We're going to deal with new retailers. We're going to go to new markets. Like for us, it really was a second coming because we had so much momentum in those cottage years. We just had like refreshed momentum.
It's honestly so cool. And like I said right at the start, every time I see one of your products on the shelf, I flash back to walking into Manor with you being like, hey, and telling me about your kombucha. And I'm always like so proud. So like, congratulations, to you and Jared. What were some of, I guess, the biggest highlights along the way for you guys?
Oh, yeah, I think... Jared and I have had moments sitting on like a finished warehouse. Like we moved to Lack Lane a couple of years ago, and this is like our dream spot, right? So our latest warehouse, we moved away from Canning Vale. We moved into a new warehouse. We built it ourselves from the ground up. There wasn't a shell there to work with, so it was our design. And Jared did all the building. And I think we were sitting down. We just like resined the floor, so the floor had all of its like final coat on it, so it was like ready. And we're just sitting down, we're like listening to Jurassic 5, and we're just like, and here we are.
Day 5, yes, you were.
We're in our perfect spot. Like this is how we wanted it. This is our design. First time. A little less hand-me-down equipment, a little less like Gumtree fridges. Still some Gumtree fridges, but that was a really miraculous moment. I also remember a moment when I sat down with Sam, and it was right after COVID, and he was the first staff member I spoke with, and he was, and I was like saying, Sam, I think we're going to have to take you down to 4 days a week. And what's really memorable about that is that he just took it on the chin and was like, this is a serious moment. He massively doubled down at that time, and I would not have the business we have today without Sam and Nat, our other manager as well, if they didn't like commit at these moments. So I remember that meeting so well. Yeah, and then even like last year, we had a bit of a golden year, right? Like we got like 2 business awards. I got recognized.
40
I got recognized 40 under 40. No big deal. Like we had like 4 months of just like stacking up all these awards that we entered not really thinking we'd get much out of it. But like we beat like Cadbury for one of the awards.
No big deal.
So we're like, yes, fuck it, Cadbury. Yeah. So those sorts of things were like, oh yeah, we're actually like it's an external recognition.
You've been on TV with Gordon Ramsay as well.
Totally. Yeah, last year was stacked. So I also took time away for the business, like 8 weeks away filming a show with Gordon Ramsay on food entrepreneurialism. So like, like The Apprentice kind of meets Shark Tank and like I went on there with Kommunity Brew. That was hectic.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the couch with my son actually before we went on, and we were watching YouTube, and Gordon Ramsay popped up, and I went to, what do we have to do to meet Gordon Ramsay? And he was like, oh yeah, no, you can't meet celebs. And I'm like, I think we can meet celebs. You never know, mate. One day you might meet a celeb of your dreams. And like 6 months later, I got invited to the TV show. And I was like, this is for sure spam. Like, this is for sure like a phishing email. And I checked it over.
Google's been listening to me.
Yeah, I was like, Google's listening to me. It sent me off this thing. And then, no, it ended up being legit. And they were like, yeah, we want you to come on the show. You'll be pitching to Gordon and Gordon Ramsay and Janine Alice from Boost Juice.
Yeah.
And you'll be competing with your business.
Wow.
It's just like, what?
Did you enjoy your TV experience?
Oh, yes and no. I met some amazing people.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange, right? Because at that point, I was pretty like far along with the business. We'd already done all the like early hustle years. And I was there with other entrepreneurs who were really just starting their idea. And it made me so thankful that I wasn't doing a show and I'm in my first 6 months of my business.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, because there's so much you need to know. There's so much ego you need to take out of it. And so I was, it felt good. It felt good for me, but it was very insightful as to where I was at with our business.
If we sort of rewind back to 2014 when you and Jared at the little concept, you know, coming like deciding to lock in on this whole kombucha thing, did you ever think that all these things would happen off the back of it?
I didn't realize it would be such a valuable story to others. Like that's actually been really insightful. Like I get to meet a lot of other food businesses that are like fledgling. And what I realized is like, oh, this story like translates to other people going into food.
Oh, not just into food. I find your story so inspiring, honestly. No,
thank you.
seriously. Like so inspiring.
I guess, you know, for entrepreneurs, like people stepping out to do their own thing, there's something similar to it all.
Oh,
right?
it's like
That grit and
validating as well,
hustle.
because then you're kind of like, okay, this is normal. There is going to be a bit of struggle. There is going to be a bit of pain.
Yeah. It's normal to have naysayers. It's normal to run out of money. It's normal to be anxious at night. It's normal to start Monday anxious. Your whole brain shifts. Like once you've been self-employed, you have a completely different understanding around what a job's like and what's needed for a business. You have to learn so much. Like you have to learn everything from legal
All
to
the different
accounting to
things.
design. Like you kind of have to learn everything.
Yeah.
And my regular lesson is every time you outsource something because you don't know how it works, for me, I always like those have not been good experiences.
Same.
Like,
I've actually found it's better to, if you are going to do that, learn the thing first and know it inside out. Then do it more for a time save thing, but know how to do it.
there's a practical bandwidth element to it.
yeah.
Like you can't do everything, so you do have to outsource things. But what I've found over the years is we've outsourced it until I've had time to learn it. And then I bring it in and I try to learn it. And then it might go back out, but there's this new sort of knowledge base to it.
Is it, you know, the dumpster diving, the living off the lentils, like that hustle, all those years, I guess, that you guys grinded away for it, was it like worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Just checking.
Yeah. So
Imagine if you said no.
yeah. Oh, like, it actually does two things, right? It builds a lot of confidence that what we've done is extremely difficult to replicate. So like I am more secure around competition and sort of challenger situations than ever before, because I just know it's so hard to go into business, let alone our business. I know personally how hard it is. So that makes me feel very confident that what we've got is something special. The other thing is like when people love their job, like when my team actually love what they do, it's so massively rewarding. And and more over time, like I feel that when we're all rewarded for that's like the most satisfying part. So for example, it even goes for Jared and I. So Jared had his first child a couple of years ago, and our partnership had a clause. Our partnership had a clause, which is that when he became a dad, he would stop working in the business. Or 7 years. So he would do 7 years and then he would move out. Now he broke the 7-year thing, but we didn't break the kid thing. So as soon as he had his firstborn daughter, we made the plan. Yeah. All right, mate, you're not working with us next year. Like we need to do the plan to work out all the management so that you can move on and be the dad. And thank you so much for everything you've done for us. And you'll still be our hotline when we need you. But otherwise, I want you to fully relax out of the business.
Do you miss having him like
all the time? Yeah, all the time. I don't think I've loved many people like I love him. You know, like a brother that I don't have. And so, because I've got sisters, and with Jared, I just so much of the difficulty we've had over the last 10 years and more has been shared. And he's been my first support on personal things, on on business related things. He knows my journey better than anybody else. I feel like I know his journey better than anybody else in some respects. I miss him all the time.
Oh.
But I'm also so happy for him. And I actually enjoy now, because he still owns part of the business, I actually enjoy working for him. And that's the mindset. Like the mindset is I work for shareholders and I like that accountability. And like, Jared being one of the majors, I'm like, I want to do him proud for what he started.
Oh, well, honestly, congratulations on everything that you have achieved, and so excited to watch where it goes, what you end up doing. But I thought it'd be cool to kind of round off with some practical tips. And I thought firstly, maybe navigating obstacles. Do you have any tips on that?
I've got, this comes from Sam actually. It's definitely sleep on it. So Sam, our national sales manager, if things get like heated, just sleep on it.
Yeah,
you can always sleep on an email or a phone call or whichever. You really can just so much of your professional work needs to be professional and not emotional. And if you're emotional, you just need to sleep on it and take a pause. Yeah, I think that's really, really valuable. The other would be seeking advice. So have mentors. You don't need to pay for them. They don't need to be your lawyer. They don't need to be your accountant. They just need to be someone, preferably it's someone that's you're not commercially tied to. But share your ideas and be transparent. It should take a lot of trust to find that person, but you need to have that person. And I try to offer that now, later in the business. I go, okay, when I see a fledgling business, I know they need a mentor. So if they have questions, I should make sure I'm available to answer them. Because that's so important. The other one is like culture. Like you've got to have people who match your drive and momentum and principles in the business. So it's so important to work out how you hire and how you let people go. Because if you don't let someone go that needs to go, they're not living their best opportunity. And that's just as important as you having the right people. So it's very easy for people to stay in a job that they just don't like, and equally, it's very hard to find people who love the work. So you need to kind of ebb and flow, move the people on that need to go more into their passion, and keep the people that are passionate.
One of the things that I feel like throughout your journey, you've had to have this incredible resilience and mental toughness. Do you have any tips or strategies or non-negotiables that you do every day? Like, are you a meditator or a journaler or like a vision boarder that helps? I'm
very crabby if I don't sleep.
Okay.
So I've got like a 9 p.m. cutoff.
Oh, wow, same.
It's really a non-negotiable. Everyone else in the house can stay up later than me. Like I've got an 11-year-old, he wants to stay up till 11. And I have to go to bed at 9. So that's really, really critical. Nutrition still plays a huge role. I'm probably guilty of skipping good nutrition rather than overindulging. That's really important. I think you have to find your recipe. Like I do things like sauna. I work out 4 or 5 times a week. I have a regimen. And what I know is if I don't do that self-care, I shouldn't expect anybody else to do it for me. And so what I notice is if I don't go to bed at 9, I get resentment. I get sour feelings, and I'm not my best self, and it manifests in my relationships.
Oh no, I'm exactly the same. And lastly, tips for starting a business and growing a business.
Don't spend money. Your idea needs to be tested in the cheapest possible way. And people massively overcapitalize early on. So you really need to work out how can you just test your idea?
It's like the minimum viable product.
Yeah.
Yes.
Minimum viable product. And the difference between 90% complete and 100% complete is infinity. You only really get to 99%, and there's no such thing as a perfect product. So you really have to get it to a testable level. And don't underestimate how many products are out there, how many businesses are out there that are at 90%. Yeah. Perfection is such an exhaustion. Don't stay away from it. Get to 90, test it cheap, get that feedback. iterate.
Yeah. What about growing a business?
Growing a business. Don't grow too many things at once. So with a product, right, people go like, oh, you could do e-commerce, you could do Amazon, you could do your own website, you could do subscription, you could do... Like, every channel takes a huge amount of resource and bandwidth and processes and all these sorts of things. And at COVID, right, a lot of businesses just tried everything. Yeah. We tried everything. But you can't do everything well. So you really have to like measure what are you trying to achieve? Where do you get your sales from? And then how well do you know the profitability of those sales? Because I can tell you now that me sending kombucha through e-commerce versus sending it to a grocery store, vastly different financial impacts to those. The costs for logistics and it's completely different. So you can't use the same equation. Yeah. Also, I think to that, revenue is a vanity metric. Gross profit is the reality.
No, well, like I said, I am honestly so proud of everything that you've done, and it makes my day seeing you like kicking goals out there. I guess for someone who has achieved so much, what is success to you?
I think it comes down to the people closest to me, my friends, my family, my wife, my son, and then my colleagues being proud of what we do. So all sorts of stuff happen in the mix. You have good months, you have bad months, you have tough times, but are they like proud of Kommunity Brew and the business that they're a part of? Are they proud of my role in it, their role in it? That is definitely what feels so satisfying. Yeah.
No, well, Mason, like I said, congratulations to Jared. Where can people find or follow you?
So definitely communitybrew.com.
Buy more Kommunity Brew.
Yeah, so go to communitybrew.com, subscribe to our newsletter. That's probably a good way to stay in touch. And then look for us at your local grocery store or cafe hopefully has ours. And if they don't, send me an email.
Yeah, get it in there. I am holding you accountable as well to bringing back the personal notes and holding the kombucha back to the light. That is like my favorite thing. Seriously. Well, thank you so much for all of your time. Just lastly, I always say life is a jungle. Have you got any parting wisdom on how to navigate the jungle of life?
Sure. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Mason, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. To find out more, you can follow me on socials at Amberly Lobo or visit my website, amberlylobo.com. Have a great day. And remember, life is a jungle. Be kind to animals. Bye.
Welcome to the jungle with Amberly Lobo.